President Volodymyr Zelensky said before he'll consider peace talks, Russia must meet one condition.
Stop shelling us, stop killing civilians.
It wants to continue to brutalize the Ukrainian people, wants to continue to shell their cities and towns.
In the last 12 months, Russia has killed tens of thousands of Ukrainian men, women, and children.
Uprooted more than 13 million people from their homes, bombed more than 700 hospitals, and yet the spirit of the Ukrainians remains unbroken. If anything, it's stronger than ever.
25 seconds. That's all Ukrainian forces had when Russian drones crossed into Kapiner before dawn. In less than half a minute, Ajax scouts and Leopard tanks moved, rocket batteries shifted, and a full-scale battle began. But what secret move tipped the balance before the first missile even landed? Stay locked in, because once you see how Ukraine answered this gauntlet challenge, you'll understand why speed is becoming the deadliest weapon in modern warfare. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Imagine drones swarming overhead before dawn. No sunlight, no warning, just the hard buzz of engines above you. Every second that passes decides if you live or if fire rains down. This is not theory. This is how 25 seconds stretched into a lifetime inside a contested Ukrainian corridor. The strike began with Russian Orlan 10 drones moving low across the horizon. These weren't scouts taken lightly.
Ukraine and Russia are exchanging fire on multiple fronts. Bridges are being destroyed, cities are burning, and oil depots are under attack.
All right, in other news, Russia has conducted fresh strikes on Ukraine's Zaporizhia region. Ukraine says Russian forces carried out 567 attacks over the last 24 hours.
At least 7 people were injured in a missile strike, while 2 others were hospitalized, and 23 private homes, 12 apartment buildings, and a post office suffered damage.
They worked as spotters, sweeping their optics over roads and depots, feeding coordinates back into strike batteries. Behind them, volleys of cruise missiles launched in arcs, and kamikaze drones followed, trailing like metal predators seeking fuel trucks, bridges, and any sign of armor on the move. The first wave wasn't probing. It was aimed as a single sharp cut, designed to break the spine of a Ukrainian logistics hub in one blow. At second 5, Ukrainian ground sensors pinged the first anomaly. Scouts picked it out, shapes too deliberate to be civilian. At second 10, confirmation ran across encrypted nets. The goal was clear: direct the enemy into a trap, not respond in fear. By second 15, Ajax fighting units shifted into flank positions, a step ahead of where the swarm hoped to land. They weren't just holding, they were preparing to counter. At second 25, Leopard 2 tanks already stood reoriented, barrels facing the threat line, while M270 launchers slewed into firing posture. The gauntlet was in motion. Think of a medieval shield wall. Archers pounding, cavalry charging, a column forced to see if defenders hold or falter. That's the analogy here. The Russians threw overwhelming shock power, hoping the front would bend. The Ukrainians braced, shields up, waiting for the deciding moment. The battlefield became a human test compressed into seconds.
Biggest Russian drone and missile attack of the war. Ukraine says Moscow fired 550 drones and 11 missiles overnight.
To Russia launching a massive aerial assault against Ukraine, the biggest since the invasion more than 3 years ago.
Rescue workers say 1 person died and 26 were injured.
But Ukraine didn't stand in silence. Warmate drones rose from staging zones, smaller machines carrying cameras and targeting data. They traced paths through forests and ravines, sending streams of images back to command vans. Compact unmanned ground vehicles added another layer, crawling over embankments and feeding live reconnaissance into encrypted routers. Together, these machines painted movement maps, showing exactly where armor would roll and where missile impacts might fall. Every piece lined into the data cycle became part of the shield wall. Russia answered not with hesitation but escalation. Tornado-S rocket systems lit the sky with clusters meant to drown positions in noise and destruction.
All right, in other news, Russia has conducted fresh strikes on Ukraine's Zaporizhia region. Ukraine says Russian forces carried out 567 attacks over the last 24 hours.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said before he'll consider peace talks, Russia must meet one condition.
Stop shelling us. Stop killing civilians.
Biggest Russian drone and missile attack of the war. Ukraine says Moscow fired 550 drones and 11 missiles overnight.
Iskander missiles added weight, dropping warheads in arcs designed to erase command structures before counter-barrages could lock in. This was a duel at the speed of signal transmission. Whoever reached targeting certainty first controlled the next breath of combat. You might think the key weapon was the heaviest shell fired. It wasn't. The edge came from speed fused with data. Ukrainian commanders drew not on the loudest gun, but on real-time feeds smoother than human reaction cycles. That let them turn artillery, armor, and drones into one organism instead of separate limbs. Speed was the shield, data the reinforcement. And the gauntlet broke. The first 30 seconds ended with Ukrainian armor still standing, rocket batteries firing, and supply routes uncut. The Russian vision had been to cripple logistics in one hard strike. Instead, the line held. Coordination accelerated by machines proved deadlier than any incoming warhead. What you see is not just survival, it's adaptation where milliseconds define life. The lesson is brutal. In the age of swarm warfare, missiles and drones count, but response time counts more. The battlefield belongs to those who can spot, process, and act faster than their adversary. For Ukraine in that 25-second storm, the deadliest tool was not a gun barrel but the network that let humans and machines think as one. But this was only the opening gate. Surviving the gauntlet meant they crossed into a new battlefield, where jamming, signals warfare, and cyber strikes waited. The visible clash of armor and rockets was over. What followed unfolded on invisible frequencies, where battles are waged without a single shot seen by the naked eye. The fight was never about who had more launchers or who fired the louder barrage. It came down to speed, to acting inside the enemy's loop before their strike closed in. Drones, armor, and rocket crews became one response cycle, each piece feeding the next, like gears in a machine built for survival. This is the story of modern war moving faster than a trigger pull. Subscribe and join a community that studies these battles fought on invisible highways of information as much as in steel and fire. In the next clash, the question is simple: what would you do with 25 seconds?